Dear listener, welcome to the podcast. Whatever we end up calling it.
Figure it out.
Still do not have a podcast title. The first episode we recorded last week, and we've been racking our brains. I promise we'll have one by the time this airs.
The bane of all writers is trying to figure out titles and character names.
Exactly.
So we can make up a fictional universe at the drop of a hat, but don't ask us to name it.
Or name your resource, JC, Unobtainium.
Yes, Unobtainium.
We probably don't need to introduce ourselves every time, right? Maybe we should.
Quick reminder.
I'm Tyler.
I'm JC.
I'm Gray, not Adam. Gray.
There you go.
Gray. There we go.
Name. There we go. Good stuff.
Let's see.
All right. I was first last time.
Yeah, Gray was first last time, and I was first the time before that. Guess who's first this time, Tyler?
Yay! Let me grab my notebook. Cue future Tyler giving context for this week. Okay, here's what you need to know for this week. So AJ, Luke, and Layla, they're kind of like the Scooby Gang. I actually call them Scooby Gang several times in my book because they're the teenagers who think that it's all down to them to solve every problem. So the beginning of this week's session, or the bit that I gave these guys for this week's section, they try to recruit Warren to go with them because Warren's a bad A and would be able to beat up anything that's out there in the woods. But he was not going to come with them, so they go by themselves. And they're trying to find out what happened to their friend Rachel, who has disappeared. Her boyfriend doesn't know what happened to her. They're out by the lake, and she went poof. So they're going to go try to figure out what it was. They think they know what's going on. There are these crazy people in the woods who I would call hounds in this section. That's when we kind of figure out more of what's going on. There's a little bit of wild hunt mythology going on. And they understand a bit of it, but they don't understand all of it. But they just want to find out what the heck is going on. So they go and they find the footprints of the hounds that took them, and then they're going to try to find where the hounds are, but then they hear this horn, and it freaks the heck out of them because they didn't know that there was a rider. So if you know anything about the wild hunt, riders with hunting horns and all that kind of medieval stuff, it's kind of terrifying because they are this immortal creature that will wreck you up, basically. So they start to run, but they get caught by the hounds, and then the rider is trying to do some kind of magic with them. It's not really clear at this point what he's doing, but he makes them bleed into the lake. And it's kind of weird, and they don't know what's going on, but they're scared as heck. They're probably going to get killed, or turned into these feral people, turned into a hound as well. But that's when Nan and Warren shows up. So AJ's grandmother, Nan, found out that they had gone by themselves and grabbed Warren, probably by the scruff of his neck because he probably didn't want to go that bad, and took them all to the lake. And Warren beats hounds up, and then the rider is just kind of watching and isn't really interacting, but he's just kind of laughing. And the guys talk a little bit about this in this episode. And then they're trying to get away. That's when the rider starts to act. It looks like he's going to stop them. But that's when Sheriff Bradley and his son Riley, who are grade A jerks, they're not sympathetic characters, they're not nice guys, they show up and they kind of save the day a little bit. Like they block the rider, they let the other group get away, and we don't really know what happens after that. Fast forward, so they're back in town. They go back to Nan's little shop. It's kind of like an apothecary shop a little bit. They keep calling her Gandalf, which is pretty accurate. She's magical, she's a healer, she does all sorts of things. And she starts to explain a little bit more about the mythology. And they learn some answers. And Warren is still very reluctant. He's still very much a reluctant hero. But he's starting to get a little bit more into it. Okay, I hope this helps. I know it's interesting listening to our writing group without actually having read what they've read, but I hope you guys are enjoying it. Thanks. Great, where'd you go?
Okay,
am
I back
for a second? Yeah, you're back.
We got you. Look now for when it's my.
All right, who is it? I dipped out for a second there.
Tyler.
I think it's me.
Okay.
Tyler's on the chopping block.
I guess, should we say this again? We're a writing group. We're showing you how to do a writing group.
Yeah.
Take notes.
Completely unscripted.
Obviously unscripted. We'll figure things out one of these days. It'll be good.
I will say this. I want to make sure that just to give the readers a little bit of context about being in a writer's group, since, we're trying to talk about that. One of the important things, and you'll notice that there's a lot of silence at times, whoever's getting critiqued is expected to be quiet while they're receiving their critiques, to listen to what we have to say. And then once we've gone through the critiques, we don't defend ourselves. We ask clarifying questions. We give, like, if there's genuine questions, we can answer them. But the idea isn't to defend ourselves and change our fellow writers' minds. It's to clarify so we can make sure that we're writing to the best of our abilities. That's one of the major things that people miss about writers' groups, I would have to say. So, as we get started and we go into Tyler's sample for this week,
and just to go off a little bit before you said into me, I think one of the most valuable things, at least for me, is to get their reactions to things. A lot of times, like, the best feedback is, "Oh, this kicked me out," because as a reader, you're trying to be super immersed and you want to be really involved with the story. And if something kicks you out and the author doesn't know that, the author should know that. So that's, we do a lot more stuff. We talk about writing principles. We talk about things to help each other be better, kind of sometimes in general, sometimes in specific. But for me, at least, I don't know if you guys agree, but that's kind of the most valuable thing is when Adam says, all these dang saids kick me out. That's really useful.
Yes. Yeah. And I would say on top of that, I had something. Dang it. Where was it?
Adam, should we call you Gray? Should I just bleep out every time we call you Adam?
Yeah. Just bleep it out like you're swearing like a sailor every single time.
But like, legitimate, do you want us to call you Gray during these things?
You know what? Let's go for that and see how it works out.
Awesome.
It's gonna be. I'll try to get into that habit.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Sorry, guys. I ruined the relationship.
What's gonna help me is it's Gray as your name on the video, so that's what I try to draw it to.
There never was an Adam. Yeah.
There we go.
Who?
Yeah. So no, it's a writer's group is really good at helping you find your weaknesses as a writer. And a lot of these are like, we're not giving second, third, fourth drafts. We're giving each other our first drafts. So yeah, some of it's going to be rough. And some of the listeners might think, well, these guys are professional writers or aspiring writers that want to go professional. How can they make X mistake? Well, we make X mistake because we're just trying to get words on the page, whether we're following an outline or not. So it helps to know that this is, for example, Tyler, when he's using his dialogue tags, he defaults to said when he's writing because it's just faster. And so we'll make sure we make note of that. So as he's doing his edits and his revisions, he can look and say, okay, I've used said 700 times on his page. I should probably find a different one.
Pretty accurate.
It's not that he's a bad writer. He's just, this is his very first draft. And it's our responsibility to help him for his next revision.
I will say it's not quite my first draft. I have been working on this for a while. But
I mean,
your point still stands.
Yes. No,
still,
I mean,
we're
talking draft. I've read through the first half of Technomancer probably 20 times. So you are not getting the first draft of that for certain.
And there's still going to be things that you missed even going through it 20 times because you're just numb at this point.
So, and on that point, I just published a book, Hero Unit 5. It's my 8th book. My wife is reading it right now. She's like, I just found a typo. And this book is out, published for anybody to buy. She's like, I just found a typo. And it's like, I have to accept that. I'm not going in and changing the metadata now. That's not happening.
But any book, yes, no matter how many revisions, no matter how many editors I've looked at, it's Murphy's Law. There's going to be mistakes. Something's going to sneak its way in.
Yes.
And that's me as an editor. I edited a book, excuse me.
That's funny.
And gave it back to the author, and she like sent me back like a handful. Like it wasn't too many. It was a handful of errors. I will say I'm pretty good at what I do. But I was like, oh man. But it's just we're humans, and even AI does even worse. So
yes. And on that point, I will say our friend and fellow author Tristy Pinkston will occasionally make a contest out of it and offer a prize to the first person who submits a typo that she didn't know about in one of her published works.
That's a good way to get
a
bunch of free editing.
Yeah.
Clever girl.
All right. So we ready to get into
let's tear into
this
it.
Week's? Do you have a title yet?
Nope.
No. Okay. As of yet, untitled work by Tyler. All right, Adam.
Do you want me to tell you about my working title that I had when I first started it?
Yeah.
So my original idea for this story was to have it be like a portal pops up every week and a monster comes out. It was going to be kind of like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer monster of the week style thing. So my working title, and it's evolved past this and it doesn't fit anymore, was Monster of the Week. And so I shortened it to MOW. So when I send you guys the files, that's why it's MOW, whatever number. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That was such a good title. It's too bad you had to kill that.
Oh man.
Even when it fit, it wasn't going to be like the end title. It was just like Monster of the Week. Monster of the Week serial. It was actually going to be a serialized kind of thing. I was going to experiment with that, but I wasn't brave enough. So someday.
Sounds like a Patreon idea.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Short story spinoffs or something.
Yeah.
All right. Speaking of brave enough, JC, am I up? Is that what I'm hearing you saying?
You're up, Gray.
All right, cool. Overall, just kind of a 50,000 foot view. I loved it. I feel like we're reaching this point in your, I don't know what you call this. You said it's about 60,000 words that you're shooting for at this point. I haven't been keeping track exactly or crunching the numbers, but it feels like we're getting into the back half for sure. Conflict is building, and your characters have already entered through at least one door of no return, and like this is a big one that takes place in this section here. So I feel like that cadence between in the last section we had both the good guys and the bad guys kind of shoring up their forces and preparing their chess pieces for the next move, and now we see that to start to play out for better and for worse, and definitely for worse for your main characters, which I love. Jumping right into it then. I will say, I don't want to butter you up too much. I feel like Tyler tends to have this like amazing plot, and then I have to like look for all these little things that I can ding him on. Right out the gate, I feel like this time you had a lot of uses of pronouns that you might benefit from cleaning up a little bit, sometimes a little vague. So even in that first paragraph there, for instance, AJ pulled his truck into their usual spot by the lake. I don't know why, but that did kick me out for just a hot second. I wanted to know who was they, because I was like, wait, is AJ alone in the truck? Obviously, we're reading this after a week, whereas a normal reader would probably just be turning the page, so it'd be a lot more clear. But I found a couple instances of that throughout that I marked, in which, and they're a little bit more onerous than this one, in which you can maybe just clarify a little bit, but up to interpretation. Cool. Just a few little kudos. Let's see. You had a line on page 1 there, the paragraph and the dialogue tag beginning, and if we do see any hounds, Luke slapped the baseball bat in his hands. It wasn't convincing. That was so funny. That felt kind of like this like Stranger Things, like preteen trying to be tough. Nobody else is buying it, but the reader still gets a little chuckle out of it. And I like Luke a little bit more for those little moments like that. Like he takes himself seriously, and Warren's not here, to protect the group. So, actually riffing off of that, I feel like this is one of the first instances, we've seen one already, when the group apart from Warren is together. So we get to see what their dynamic is like a little bit without him there to protect them and be the new kid or be the crush for Layla. So that's always interesting. And then just seeing this kind of full circle moment when the gang stumbles upon the site of where the previous victim had been attacked, and they come upon the cooler. That was kind of satisfying, harkening back to, gosh, was it like chapter 2 or something towards the very beginning of the book? So I appreciated that. And gosh, there's just a lot of moments where like I got goosebumps reading it. So yeah, you already introduced the hounds. Obviously, there's kind of a threat, but you've also countered them with Warren's ability to fight pretty well. But that moment when they see the hoof print and AJ's like, crap, there's a rider. And the reader's like, wait, rider, I think I've heard that word before. Have I? And then not too long thereafter, I mean, you get a little bit of a backstory from Mr. Whistly talking about the rider and the legend, which is really cool. And then like almost immediately after, I'm thinking like, oh, cool, this will definitely come up later in the book. Boom. No, you hear the horn. And I'm like, okay, that's how you do it. And then I'm like thinking like, oh, and they're going to get out of here safely and go tell Warren what they found. And then they'll encounter this thing later when they have, you know, their bodyguard essentially with them. But no, you've stripped these characters of their protection. And now they get to have this moment where they're in genuine physical and emotional peril. And it's ramped up from like the encounter with like the local bully from earlier, or even the hounds from earlier. Like this is definitely a sense of escalation here, which I love. Excellent description. I'll say that you had a couple of moments in which you really describe, especially with the hounds. It feels so visceral. So Luke is concerned that they're naked, right? So you get a visual, unfortunately. You get
I don't describe. I don't go into detail.
You're keeping the readership in mind. But man, you can smell the BO coming off of them. You describe that.
Yeah.
Again, not in too much detail, but it's enough, right? And then they're like radiating heat is something that AJ picks up on. And you're like, okay. And then something about creaking I saw. So you're engaging like 4 senses. Once again, I'm still waiting to see how you're going to make use of taste. But I was there in the moment. I saw the writer, as you described, like the zombified flesh. And it wasn't like gratuitous. It was just what they would have noticed in the moment. So brilliant. Let's see.
Thank you.
Yeah, a couple instances of like awkward phrasing, like I could tell, like JC said, you're like sprinting through this to get it done. But man, and then you kind of have this little bit of a cool down when they go back with Nan, and we finally kind of get to hear Gandalf explain things, so to speak, just a little bit more. Because every time the characters try to ask questions, they're written off as being preteens. They don't need to know anything about this. But now Nan, after having swooped in to save them with Warren, has a legitimate reason to explain a little bit more. Like, okay, if I tell you this a little bit more, will you stop poking your nose into this? And it feels kind of like a natural, annoyed adult response. It's there's no Hagrids in here. I probably shouldn't have told you that. Everybody's pretty guarded with the information in this town, so we get spoon-fed these clues, and I do appreciate the pacing at which you're doing that and how it's coming out naturally. Overall, man, super job well done.
Appreciate it.
What about you, Jesse?
So yeah, overall, this was a good solid section, good scene, gives us a little bit more tension. I have a lot of comments where it's, you've answered the question, but you've given us more questions. So you're keeping the narrative going. You're not ending it. You're not saying, oh, here's all your answers. There are a couple of little things that I put in comments. I like that AJ realizes he's making a bad decision, but he knows that if he's not there, Luke and Layla are going to go anyway. And so he's trying to make a bad decision less terrible by being there. Crap, there's a writer. That is an explanation and a question wrapped up into one sentence. And like somebody like me who's read and studied fae and mythology, I know you've mentioned the Wild Hunt, you've mentioned hounds. Well, yeah, I know what goes along with the Wild Hunt, but not all your readers are going to. So they're going to be like, what the heck is a rider? I had to make this note. This is one of those funny times where even if you'd had spell check on, it wouldn't have caught it. You have feral and viscous instead of vicious, and the image of a viscous hound is hilarious.
It works.
Oh dear.
So I tagged that for you. I because when I initially read it, my eyes filled it in, and I knew you meant vicious, and I wasn't going to tag it, but I was like, no, that needs to be pointed out because I know he knows.
Never
That's
have
hilarious.
Seen that.
Into the final book.
Yeah, and I've done the same thing. I've gone through a page and I've probably read it 100 times. I do my out loud read through, and I'm like, that's not what I meant at all. So, yeah, I had to tag that. And again, it's right in this beautiful narrative where you're talking about everything, and then it's like, oh yeah,
feral and viscous. That would have snuck its way into the final. That would have been published.
Do you guys ever do that trick? JC, you mentioned you're like reading aloud pass through. Do you ever do that trick where you have Microsoft read it in that terrible mechanical Microsoft voice so that it catches?
I've been tempted to a few times.
Something else you can do is just put it into a different font as you're reading it.
Yeah.
And that the difference will make it help you. Will help you catch things like that. So,
yeah, my last edit is always my out loud read through, where I will read word for word, and I make sure like I have to force myself to read every single word that's on the page, so my mind doesn't fill in what I think is supposed to be there and what I thought I wrote, and it catches a lot more that way. Anyway.
Thank you for that, Jason. That was very helpful.
Yeah. Again, so this time around, I didn't tag you on every place where I felt like action needed. There were just a few where I was like, you really need something here.
An action beat, or what are you talking about?
Yeah, an action beat after like a dialogue. There are a couple. Like a lot of them, you can get away with it. It's in this section, it's going to be fine because if you put too much in, it's going to drag it down. But there are a few spots where it needed it. I like the line. Actually, AJ thought to himself, they didn't have to imagine because it was happening to them right now. It's like, yeah, no, that's yep. I like that you have them unable to get away from the hounds by themselves. Warren beat one like one-on-one, even when he was kind of tripping. And these three didn't stand a chance. So it gives you that perspective into Warren. The paragraph where the writer shows up, I loved it. Because again, like Gray was mentioning, you give enough and allow the reader to fill in the rest. Like I can picture what's going on here. Just from the details you gave us. And you didn't drag it out. You didn't belabor the point. It was really good. And then the paragraph where they're dragging them into the edge of the water and you get this panic feel of everything that's going on. That paragraph hit really, really well. I liked it because it really ratchets up the tension. These three didn't stand a chance, and this proves it. The line that really spoke to me, though, is when the writer says, "Let the kine speak." And I know what the word kine means. I know where that I know that. And so it's a terrifying thing to hear a superior creature call you a herd animal, your fodder, so that was a good choice. Let's see here.
I thought that word meant child.
Yeah.
That, and you get one line where he says bleed. You don't need an action beat there. You don't need anything else there. That one word coming from the writer is perfect. So I congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Honestly, there's not a lot of, and partially this is, I was going to try to give you another read through, but I ended up having a migraine,
and I did give you like 4,000 words to read.
I mean, that's the thing. It didn't feel like 4,000 words. It actually felt shorter because it went through the action really well. Nothing really dragged the narrative down. Nothing really pulled the reader out. I mean, little things, yeah, but that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I like that you show that Luke, Layla, and AJ have book smarts. Like the one that fell nearly at AJ's one felt he nearly pukes when he sees the misshapenness of the thing's jaw. Layla straight up passes out. They have a theoretical knowledge of violence, of magic, of fae, of bad things. You know, they've been told the boogeyman stories. Warren, on the other hand, has lived the boogeyman stories in a way.
And he is the boogeyman.
Yeah, he is kind of, yeah. and you get this contrast of Warren gets attacked by a hound. He's freaked out, but he also kicks the crap out of it. These guys get attacked by a hound. They freak out, and if it wasn't for Nan and Warren, they would be dead. And it's a great contrast, especially after Warren's fight with the hound. Let's see here. I will say this. I like that you had the sheriff show up, because it's important for his character in this moment to show up and intervene, because we think of him as the bad guy a lot of times as we're reading through this. And I think this is what you're going for, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he's not so much the bad guy as he's got a different, his means, he wants to reach the same end just by different means, and they don't agree with his means necessarily. And so for him to show up and just save them, I mean, he helped save their lives, clearly. And whether there's ulterior motives or not, we'll find out later, but he did intervene. So it gives him that human side that is necessary in villains like that, or antagonists, I should say. I don't necessarily call him a villain. Let's see here. I like that, like you said, Gandalf explains a little bit more. I like that you finally explain why his name is AJ, because if I'd had a name like his, I would also have gone by my initials. Let's see here. And again, Warren is sticking to the no, I'm not getting involved. I think that's important. It'll be interesting to see how you get him involved. That's going to be the question that's in the back of my mind, is how is Warren actually going to get involved? Is he going to stay reluctant? Because I know you said this is going to be part 1 of 3 is the ideal. So, I mean, he could stay reluctantly involved throughout all of book 1 and still be okay in my mind. But it'll be interesting. I like that Layla steps in between him and Luke too. Like, you give her that moment of knock it off. She shows that she's not an idiot. Let's see here. Anything else? I hit this part where they're going through the description, and I kind of didn't pick up on anything that needed to be mentioned, because it just was flowing. It was a story. It was a narrative. So that worked really well. And then let's see here. No, that's pretty much it. Yeah, overall, there are a couple of little things here and there. Nothing major. There was no glaring continuity errors or personality quirks. So you're like, what the heck is going on? It all fit. It all worked. It all flowed. It kept me interested. It kept me going. I like where the story's going. I like what you're doing with it. Again, it'll be interesting to see what it's like to read it like straight through. I very nearly went back and reread last week's and then read this week's, just so I can feel the flow between the two narratives. But yeah, you're on your way, doing great.
Thank you.
Can I add, just JC going back through reminded me of a few things. I love the personality of the writer. He seems a little bit one note, which is totally fine. Like, he's just so self-satisfied. Like, I mean, he seems to just be motivated completely by taking pleasure. Like, the thrill of the hunt, it's kind of like the legend actually is come to life. Like, it's kind of accurate in a way. And the way that he's totally fine with like letting his enemies kind of like regroup so that he can stand back and watch, like, okay, like, I'd like this to be a little bit of a challenge. I'm kind of bored at the moment. Like, I really appreciate that, him coming on the scene this late, you're able to, in this small space of time, inject so much personality into him. And then I forgot to mention the fact that we once more get to see Warren from another POV is really cool when he goes into Berserker mode, because you're like, should I? That's right. Maybe I should be afraid of this kid. Like, he is kind of almost a killer, So that was kind of neat to see. Warren gets a break, like, he was a reasonable one. He made the smart choice. He stayed at home. Okay, he's going to go rescue them. Now he gets to fight, though. Like, he doesn't, he gets to break the rules because he has a valid excuse. And even though none of that is, running through his head because this isn't his POV, like, it's just kind of neat to see from the outside looking in. Like, he's just frenzied and kind of enjoying this moment in a weird way, at least during the fight.
Yeah. It's kind of his MO.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to, but he does enjoy that kind of thing. Yeah, thanks, guys. Couple questions. So we've talked a lot about using like archaic language, trying to make it seem natural. The writer is my one guy in this book who does that. How did it seem to you? He doesn't talk a lot, I know, but
yeah. Like, other than like putting thee, thou, thine, and that in, which I think would be too heavy-handed.
Yeah, I don't want to do
that. To me, it felt fine. Like, it felt like I said, using the word kind lets us know that, okay, yeah, this dude's old. But if he's been sort of on this side for long enough and he's heard enough people and interacted with enough people, his linguistic habits might have shifted a little bit. So it makes sense that he's not doing, Old English, personally.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to fault you because he's not speaking Gaelic or something. Like, I like that.
That'd be cool.
You sprinkle in a couple of words, and either we understand them through context clues, or you already know what they are, like JC understanding this apparently common term, kind. And I didn't know what that was, and that's totally fine because it was just kind of there for texture, and it worked for that for me.
And it didn't really matter that you thought it was children, because that still fits, and it was still, hopefully it still felt like an old way of saying that, even though, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. I don't really have too many other questions. I was really looking forward to sharing this section with you guys.
No, it's a good section. It really is. It's one of those action beats that really, it goes beyond what happened with Warren, because with Warren it felt sort of like a freak thing. This felt more deliberate, like the scene we get at the beginning with Amy. This felt more like a threat, like bad, not random freak accident. So it ups the stakes, in my opinion.
Good. Did I give Nana too much of an old lady name? Now that you finally hear her first name in this one,
I know
it's Edith.
I missed it. Oh, Edith.
No. I think I think that fit.
Cool.
No, I don't even think. Anything else? Any other questions?
No,
guys?
not really.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Hey,
cool. Yeah, thank you. That was awesome.
Yeah.
All right, JC, who is next up on the chocolate block?
I think it's me, because I think I went last time.
Sweet.
Cool. We're just kind of moving backwards. So, Q, future JC.
And I'm back. This is future JC again. A little bit of context on the scene that the guys have been going through this week. It's a slower scene. It's not part of the main action. It's a secondary storytelling scene, giving you a chance to see into the private lives of the characters. We meet, let's see here. This is sort of not quite midway through the book. We meet Jessica, Eve, and Jessica's sister Jennifer's good friend, Cora. Cora is also an exceptional. She works as the head of security for a museum in New Davenport, and they play Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games together. The scene is in Eve's perspective because one of the things that Eve deals with as the first self-aware artificial intelligence is her memories that are programmed tell her that she's 23 years old, where in reality, her sum total of lived experience is about a year. And she occasionally struggles with fitting in. This chapter also gets a chance to meet the main character from Hero Unit, who we've encountered a few times in other selections, Ace. Ace is, for lack of a better description, my world's version of Superman or Supergirl. Her powers are far beyond every other exceptional, but I like giving opportunities for the readers to see her in a different role, outside of work, outside of being a law enforcement officer. So Eve turns to her for a little bit of help. So that's what this week's selection is about.
Awesome. Adam, do you want me to go first since you went first with me, didn't you?
Yeah, that'd be great.
As always, enjoying the world building. Enjoy learning about these guys' powers. I like that you kind of I feel like you're kind of trying to give a nod to the readers of the other book that's going on at the same time as this. I think you could even do a little bit more, give like more specific details. When Ace comes to talk to Eve, I don't know what's going on in the other book, but if she's coming from a fight, I don't know, describing rumpled clothes or something, because obviously she's not going to be hurt because she's Supergirl, basically.
Yes.
But like, I think little specific head nods to your readers who have read other of your books would be really cool. So I like that. Questions about alter egos, if they're real or just pretend. I thought that was an interesting quirk of, or I shouldn't say quirk because quirks are an actual thing in your books. An interesting flavor for Cora. So I don't know if that needs more explanation or not. It was just something I was wondering about, like whether it's like an actual thing that she has an alter ego or if it's just that she's separating herself from work. And either way, it's not going to affect too many things. The biggest critique I have is this whole conversation that Eve has with Ace and kind of leading up to it feels a little bit forced. I like that we're getting more characterization from Eve. It still took me embarrassingly long to realize that we were in Eve's perspective, and when I look back, it should have been obvious. But I just expect to be in Jessica's for some reason. But that was more on me than on you, honestly. But yeah, I didn't love that whole section, and I couldn't really tell you why. I wondered if there needed to be something else to give it stakes, to give it, I don't know, like maybe because she's having this kind of existential crisis, she starts, what's the term for it? When the computer glitching out or something like that. That I think that might add a flavor to it, which would make it feel more pressing. As it stands, and obviously she is a 1-year-old technically, even though she's mentally an adult. It felt just kind of like she was being like a moody teenager, which is probably what you're going for, but I don't know.
No, yeah,
I was hoping.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's
I left a final comment to try to get my thoughts together in there, and I said that maybe I'll have more to say tonight when we chat about it, because I read this earlier today, and I really don't. I just again, this is me giving my emotional reaction to it. And we talked about last time how like you were probably due for some kind of action, and it was kind of slower, but that's not really the issue with that sequence. But I love what you're trying to do with it, because I do want to get more from Eve. I do want to know more about her and what's going on with her. But just needed something else. Hopefully Gray will come in and enlighten us on what it needs. But that's what I was thinking. You have this other part when her powers go off and the natural laws shift. I want specificity. I want to know what that means, if there's like tremors or something like that. I think we talked a little bit about that. I don't know if it was last time or the time before, when natural laws are being weird around Eve.
I think last time.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
So just being specific with that, having concrete details. Yeah, we're meeting more of their friends. We're getting this sense of a network of exceptionals. It seems like they're just the cool kids in the city, in the world, which is, I'm sure, is fairly accurate for who they are.
Just gonna keep being jealous of how big and tall they are, and young and good looking.
Right. And I was just thinking, like, I haven't had any time to edit this week. I was like, man, if I was a freaking exceptional, I didn't have to sleep, I'd be done already. But yeah, I like that she has these relationships. I like that Eve has these relationships, that she has Ace to kind of look up to as a mother figure, as a motherly aunt, I guess. I like that there's kind of an emotional core to this, essentially a robot. Yeah. Okay. I like emotional robots.
Get a t-shirt that says that.
Awesome.
Clip it.
That's the name of our podcast now.
I like
the emotional robots.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, Gray, enlighten us, please.
Oh, man. Okay, so JC, I have some thoughts for you, and I'm gonna share them one word to another, because I think that's the best language to speak in, given the genre that you've established in the world. Perfect. All right, so we're on even footing. So I will just mention that I was a huge avid reader of Marvel comics years ago, not so much recently, especially a writer named Brian Michael Bendis. He had some good runs on New Avengers, Ultimate Spider-Man, Daredevil, and particularly his work with New Avengers, when Marvel handed the keys over to their marquee franchise to him. He did a great job, I thought, of kind of establishing this world in which you had a core team of heroes that know each other and that were part of the book. But other heroes would pop in and out of that, just kind of like a mention. And I think that's what's happening, like at the beginning, for instance, with Titania or Cora. It's her.
Yeah, Cora.
Okay, same person.
Okay, yeah. And it did take me a second to clue into that. I thought it was actually funny how she was like, was she referring to herself in the third person, or is that?
Yes.
Okay, that's a thing that megalomaniacs do.
Yes. She's.
Okay, sorry. That's neither here nor there. Which is funny if that's the case then. Anyway, I like that approach. To kind of have people pop in and out of the book that are part of their world, but not necessarily a part of this story. And you do that with Ace in this chapter. You do that with Cora. I like these nods to other things that are going on, not even just in the universe, because that sounds like comic booky, but in their, the lives of their friends and compatriots.
Yeah.
to that end, like there's this line I'll always remember in New Avengers about Iron Fist telling people when they're staying in his apartment, like, guys, who's not washing their dishes? If you mess a dish, you clean a dish. Wolverine, and it goes a long way towards humanizing them, and I feel like you have so much potential to do that with what you've set up here. I like the fact that they're getting together. I didn't expect the fact that they're gamers, which adds like a fun little dimension. I mean, you could kind of mention it. I don't know how interested Eve is in that kind of thing, but like you could get into some details here that would kind of be fun, or not. But I just want to say that I appreciate that, and you could even lean into that harder, and that's cool. Okay, so getting into this POV a little bit more. This is Eve. I feel like you have the potential here, and there's a couple of instances, one of which I remember in particular, in which I thought to myself, okay, this is cool that this is Eve. I wish that she would describe things maybe using more empirical details, because the machine part of her might be coming out more. Sorry, I'm not going in a particular order, but I'll just jump down to the scene where she's talking to Ace on the roof. And if I can find that real quick here. In a specific comments. Okay, so on the roof, the shadows were getting longer, but it was still oppressively warm. On that point, I'm like, how does Eve know that it's warm? Like, does she have sweat glands? And I assume she does. Or are there other barometers that she would use to judge maybe the exact temperature or the humidity? Like, just things you can play with.
She probably could tell you those things.
Yeah. And I don't know if like she would actively try to stuff down that sort of data analysis because she wants herself to be more human, particularly in this vulnerable moment. But things like that you have the potential to bring out, or even other details such as when Eve sent, with some reluctance, Eve sent a message to her aunt, Ace. Hey, can we talk for a bit? And even in that one line, I'm like, okay, was that a text? Was that over a wireless network? Was that telepathic? Was that all of the above? Like these are interesting little tidbits. I'm like, hey, tell me more. That would make this more of a unique Eve POV chapter potentially. Okay. And I'm curious, actually, how was she contacting her?
Technically, it's through, I refer to the smartphones as devices. They're a lot more advanced than even ours smartphones. And she just can connect to hers without having to like pick it up and text because she's a robot.
Yeah.
So it was via like their equivalent of a cell network through her device.
Cool. I was kind of thinking it might be something like that, but yeah, that's awesome.
Okay.
I'll just mention there like 2 lines below that, Eve dithered over what she wanted to say. I love that word, but that's just me.
It's a good word.
Yes.
Okay. As to kind of some of the things that Tyler pointed out when this problem of trying to Eve feeling, I don't want to say dehumanized, but feeling left out, feeling unable to read the sarcasm of the group, feeling like she's not quite fitting in. I like all of that. I can read that that's what's happening in this chapter. I like the kind of emotional immaturity that would be inherent in a character like this. That's cool. And the fact that they do have to bring in someone like Ace, or they have that relationship and they kind of utilize it, and it's like, oh, no big deal, sister. The read that I get of Ace is she's kind of like the Captain America of this world. And I don't think you've ever said that explicitly. So yeah, I think that's just kind of comes across with her presence, which is awesome. The bulk of the conversation I felt might have been a little too on the nose. And I don't know, could think of some strategies to, I don't want to say add complexity to the conversation, but maybe a new angle. I don't know. Eve seems so upfront with her insecurities. Like she's completely inevasive. And the fact that she's like, these are my problems. Here you go. And Ace is like, this is how you solve your problems. Here you go. And that's obviously oversimplifying it, but, and that's not quite doing it justice, but I feel like there's maybe some other angle that you can work to make that a little bit less straightforward, or almost like hurdles in the conversation, hurdles to those emotional barriers. I don't know. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Part of that's a writing flaw on my part that I am aware of.
It's just because you're too honest, JC, and you never talk around your feelings.
That having gone to counseling many times, I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm very blunt about it because and that's part of my problem. I realize, thanks to you guys, is I don't like making my characters like I don't like when they act normal, essentially, like act like a person would. Like I struggle to allow my characters to make stupid choices that they would probably make. And so that's something that I need to work on. Obviously, this conversation is an example of that. Like Eve just tells it like it is, and part of that, I think I was trying to convey that she's not human. Maybe it didn't work though. Like she doesn't. Yeah.
I had the thought that maybe that was where, because I actually said the exact same thing that Adam said. It was like it was a little bit on the nose. I said that in a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a way that you can do this. I think you just maybe have to. And again, I talk about throwaway lines because throwaway lines can be really impactful. Just maybe have somebody comment that she's being really straightforward, or it's such a relief that you don't talk around your feelings like a regular teenager would, or something like that.
Which would make her feel even more out of place. Wait, I'm not a regular teenager.
Yeah, don't have Ace do that. Maybe have a Cora or somebody
Right.
or somebody do that.
Right.
Because and that was another thing. I think it does become clear why she feels closest to Ace and why she can talk to Ace about things like that, because Ace is like far and above the most powerful person, right? Essentially.
Yeah.
So she also kind of feels we lost Gray for a second.
We lost
Hopefully
Gray.
he comes back.
Okay,
hey,
Hi.
lost you for a second.
Sorry about that. Not sure what that was.
Good. I lost my train of thought, but
my bad.
Right. About Ace, I think that could be made a little bit clearer. Maybe even before they even start their conversation, like Eve could have like an internal dialogue about why she talks. Maybe not trying to be like info dumpy, but walk that fine line as we always try to do.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'm making notes to go back through and do is give brief mentions of things that happen in book 1, Runaway. So that's because that's one of those things that gets like it's a full-blown explanation. Spoiler alert, in Runaway, how Ace and Eve's relationship was created, exists, why it exists, is one of the big revelations from Runaway. So I do need to reference that. You're right.
And yeah, just stakes. I mean, I know it's sometimes hard to be mean to your characters, but you kind of need to be.
Yeah. I'm probably a little too nice with my characters. I read the very first book series I did not finish because the author was just so brutal with her main character that I was like, you're not giving this dude a reprieve. I can't handle it. And it's not the same. Like people say, well, the Dresden Files is like that. And you love the Dresden Files. And I'm well, no, Harry gets reprieves. Harry has moments of levity throughout the book. Yes, the stakes keep rising as the series goes along and things do get harder, but he does get moments of reprieve. He has moments of where he can just take a breath, where he can be just normal for a little while. But this series, none of that. So that's another one of those writer weaknesses. So
I totally get that. I mean, we have so much grimdark. Like that's kind of the same reason I didn't finish the Game of Thrones series. I got to like book 4, I was like, this is way too brutal. But yeah, Harry's a really good example because maybe until the last couple of books, he's genuinely a happy person, even though he's had all these terrible things. He gets the crap beat out of him every single book. And when you read like one of the short stories where he doesn't get the crap kicked out of him, it almost feels weird because you're used to him having, a broken bone or something that he's and bruises and cuts and all sorts of things. Gray, I don't know if you've read. I forget if you've read the Dresden Files, but
I have not had the pleasure yet.
Yeah, they're really good.
They're good.
But I think that would be a good balance to kind of shoot for is to treat your characters, and maybe not physically, because I know you've kind of already made most of them invulnerable, but we've talked about like emotional stakes before and making sure that they do have something to lose.
And I think you have done that in some ways, JC. I can't remember if Eve's inability to catch the cyber criminal has kind of made her feel a little insecure because she's supposed to be, she's supposed to be the best at what she does, and yet she's unable for some reason to catch this guy. So you can kind of keep not playing that up, but leaning into that a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe it's just that I don't know. Maybe there's just a lack of conflict. Like the resolution happens too easily in the conversation. But anyway.
But I like that it's still like she says she's still not 100%. Like it didn't actually resolve it, but it got her closer. And that's, that's kind of all you can really hope for.
The character arc in this book.
To get a little bit better after a conversation.
Yeah. And there are a couple of some funny things in the conversation. Like Eve says, most people my age can't even crawl yet.
I love that.
And it's like, okay, it's funny. So she does get some sarcasm. Some of this has rubbed off on her. So that's cool.
And I love that, like, who was she talking to when she said that? Was she talking to Ace or?
She's talking to Ace.
Yeah. I love that Ace doesn't even think about it because she has in her mind that Eve is a certain age. And she's like, she acts like an 18-year-old. Am I remembering that right?
She's supposed to be early, like 2021-ish.
Like the same kind of close to Jessica.
Little younger than Jessica is what she was programmed to be.
And I love that it wasn't even the thought like, oh, I'm talking to a 1-year-old. That's not what she's thinking about. She is treating her as an adult. And I also really liked how that came in. I'm talking about Jessica's relationship with her, how there is that slight tension potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. The family dynamic is interesting, and you can keep playing it with that. I mean, Ace, you say specifically that she goes into mom mode when she has to. I'm like, okay, I see that, and then Jessica is like the big sister, and you have the extended friend group, and so that's kind of cool the way that you're playing with that. And I think that just goes back to what I was talking about at the beginning, like with the Avengers thing, like it just humanizing them on some level is cool to see. As long as you're balancing that with the action and all that, but now hopefully there'll be human stakes, and we'll really care when they're being thrown off of a building. But yeah, sweet. I think that's pretty much all I had. Yeah, any questions for us, JC?
I don't think so. Answered some of the questions I had. I will say when it comes to alter egos, I'm not good at addressing it. Like they exist. And sort of the idea is you have, so exceptionals have two ways of treating their powers. This gets explained better in the main series, and I need to bring it in this one. You can register when you turn 18. It means you enter certain information into a central database, and that allows you to get a job using your powers. It allows you to use powers on sort of a day-to-day basis. And if you choose not to register, you're not allowed to use your powers unless you're under direct supervision of the EED. And so when some people register, they choose to take on an alter ego. So, yeah. And so with Cora, what she did, she registered, she took on an alter ego. And so if she's not in that alter ego, people aren't allowed to ask her questions that would relate to the alter ego. It's not so much that it's a secret identity, it's a more extreme, this is work life, this is private life. If I'm in private life, I'm not this person. And there's a scene later where I emphasize it a little bit more, because they do actually have to ask her work questions. But with the heroes, the people that work for the EED, they do have a genuine alter ego that excuse me, that they can switch to, that gives them a little bit of insulation. Some of the more prominent ones, it's more of a, well, yeah, they have an alter ego, but they don't really use it because everybody knows who they are.
So it's more of a legal thing rather than like she's actually like switching personalities, or something. Like, what was that? Severance? Is that the TV show where they don't remember their work life, and then when they're at work,
I think
they don't
so.
remember their home life? Huh. It's not like that,
right? No,
okay.
And it's just it's like that extreme. If I'm not in this persona, I'm not working.
That's pretty cool.
And it's optional. Like there's some people, like construction workers, that's a big one where exceptionals are used. They're just construction workers. They don't feel the need. But anything else?
Yeah. Just remember, write on a sticky note, JC, to be mean to your be mean to your darlings.
I'm working on that.
And it's not like you have to be sadistic about it, but
and that's like I have certain lines I won't cross. I've
for sure
myself, like in Hero Unit in the main series, nobody's allowed to hurt Ace's family because of the character I've established for her and how she would react to that.
Superman gone dark.
Yeah.
What's the comic where he like takes Injustice? Yeah, where he takes over the world and
yeah. And with Jessica, one of the things I'm going to try to emphasize is she has sort of the equivalent of the Incredible Hulk rage power. I'm going to start putting more emphasis on that, to where it's a very reactionary power, and she has to maintain a certain level of control, or she can become a danger. Yeah. So
I think that's a really good example of stakes for her.
Yeah. Like in that first scene where she crashes into the building after the explosion, I'm going to adjust that where she's not like, yeah, blown eardrums isn't the problem. It's the fact that rage has completely taken over, and she knows if she does anything, move, barely breathe, anything, that it's gonna explode out. And so that's what I'm gonna start working into scenes.
Yeah, and if she's in the role of the emotional role of the big sister to Eve, those stakes are amplified because she's trying to present this very professional, not just professional, but emotionally stable self that Eve can kind of model herself after. So that's even better.
Okay, good. Yeah, now we just got to do it justice.
Right? That's the hard part.
You got this, man. You got this.
Thanks. I appreciate that, all of it.
Okay,
Gray.
Cue future Gray.
Hey, what's up, fellow Gryffindorks? This is Gray Alder with a recap of the brilliant piece that I've handed over to the guys this week. All right, so I submitted a single chapter set in the same book as last week's entry. This chapter takes place pretty early in the story. Right now it's sitting at about chapter 4, but it's still early days, so that could change. So this section picks up with our main protagonist and POV character, Nin, as he continues to travel the main highway away from the capital city and toward, or is it through, the dangerous Arius Forest on his way to complete an unspecified mission. Now, as the guys discovered last week, Nin is also Stills, the POV character from earlier, but I'm sure that won't get confusing at all. So Nin bumps into another character while walking, a foreigner named Gil, who is also a member of the Chaplain's military organization, which you might also recall from earlier.
Now, as Nin bumps into this guy, the catch is that he doesn't know whether he's supposed to kill the guy or protect him. His orders are kind of vague. And hopefully that ambivalence makes things interesting here. But let's hear what the guys thought, shall we?
What's up, guys? I have a British accent now. Here to talk about... No.
Lovely.
Edit that out.
Heck no, I'm leaving that in.
Oh, boy.
I'm not editing anything out if I can help it.
I worry that this is going to be so boring. There's going to be so many...
yeah.
Let me just find the comment.
Hopefully
bold
that's
of you.
helpful.
Yeah. Bold of you to
boy.
assume that we'll have comments on our episode.
All right, let me have it.
Yeah. JC, you want to take it?
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll start it off. I liked this section. One of the things I was thinking of, and I did, like I mentioned with Tyler's, I was thinking of what happened last time I read this. And I think one of the things that I'm trying to start taking into consideration, and this is partly because I read like 6 books at a time. And so it might be a week or more before I pick one up again. And if I pick this up, am I going to be able to pick the narrative back up? And I can pick the narrative back up. Like, I'm not lost. So since this is, I don't know if this is an actual chapter transition or not, but it's there. I'm picking the narrative back up. I'm following back in. So you've got the signposts that a reader will need to get back into your book if they've put it down for a little while, which is important. I like that you use a term like prefrontal cortex and then explain that it's an atrium thing, that he calls it that. And so it gives us a feeling that atrium has advanced knowledge that the common man doesn't have. So it doesn't feel like a modernism. It's no, this guy's really smart. He calls things different things because he's really smart. And people have been doing that for centuries. Scholars do that. They talk different. I mean, so I'm not saying you're getting, I don't want to say you're getting away with it, but at the same time, you're getting away with using that term because it makes sense. I like that you put in stakes for the magic system. Nian says no restorative measure he could think of now, save for a good night of deepest sleep. There are stakes to using the magic. What he's gone through is draining his body. He needs actual sleep. So that's good. That's important. Let's see here. I like how dangerous you make the forest feel in this description. And it's not that, oh, it's dangerous because you're outside and it's the woods and there's wild animals. No, there is something in the forest that wants to hurt things. Like there's a presence there that people feel and know, and they know that it is a place that is not just dangerous because you're outside, but it's dangerous because of where it is. So that you establish that, in my opinion, really well with those few paragraphs, especially the line, "It waited." I caught a typo. You put, "He shook myself." So I got that for you. Let's see here. So I like when Gil shows up and you emphasize that he is white with italics and everything, because then it's like, oh, okay, so everybody else we've been seeing, their skin tone is at the very least quite a bit darker. And so that gives us a cultural or a regional idea of what these people look like. Do I think you could have established it earlier? No. I think putting it here, like it's like, oh, okay, this is, and it's going to make the reader pause, and it might even make him go back and read again to see, and then realize and change what they're seeing. And I think that's a good thing. Let's see here. I caught him double smiling. in a line.
Double smiling.
Yeah, he smiles, stands up, and smiles again.
That's creepy.
So to me, it's like I like the idea that he stands up and gives him the manly grin instead of smiling first and standing up. So it's just an order of operations almost there. I like the running commentary he's got going in his head. I don't make a specific comment, but trying to figure out just what is going on. And Atrium's fragment isn't really giving him a lot of information. And you can get the sense of frustration that he's feeling without saying he was frustrated. Like his thoughts, his actions, his reveals that this is a tense, frustrating situation for him, and he's trying to figure it out, and he's not getting the answers he wants. I like the way Gil talks. Again, another one I forgot to make a specific comment about, but he has a different mode of speaking than that we've read so far. So he feels like a foreigner. He feels like he doesn't belong in this area. Let's see. More details about the magic, talking about that even the rank and file of the chaplains have training against mind mages. Just something about the scene where he's grabbing Gil's hand when he reaches into his pocket. Like, I knew he was reaching for the locket because I'm a writer, but for the reader, I don't know. I can't point out something specific, but it feels slightly overreacty on Nian's part, that he immediately assumes that this jolly happy-go-lucky guy is suddenly going for a weapon, even though Atrium has said that he's one of the most dangerous chaplains. Words and actions have different weight, and Gil's actions don't seem to be threatening at any point. And again, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. One of the things I mentioned is foreshadow that he's dangerous a little bit more. Like, just little hints of like situational awareness, body language, things like that. Like, you present him in his voice as very jolly. He comes across as very happy, one of those big friendly guys that you meet occasionally. But if you emphasize the little things, like taking notice of his surroundings, the sort of typical soldier actions that a lot of people use to describe assassin or dangerous characters, along with the description of his happy-go-lucky personality, would make that scene feel slightly less like an overreaction. That because he's doing these things, Nian understands that, yes, he is actually dangerous, and I need to be on my guard.
That makes sense.
I was a little circular there on my logic, so I'm glad I finally was able to convey the point. So one of the interesting things I notice is so you say Gil is 21? Yes?
Gosh, how old is he exactly? I don't even remember.
That sounds right.
Yeah, because Atrium says he's
no more than 23 at most, he thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, he thinks that Gil is 23.
Yeah.
Not explicitly stated, but yeah, like that's his assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then he talks about how he's been chaplain for 5 years. So that goes back to that comment way in the beginning, way in the first section, where we joked about it because I am 40, where the old man was 40. But this establishes a world where expectations start at younger ages. And so if life 5 years as a chaplain on the front lines is a surprise that he survived that. So for there to be a 40-year-old might be surprising. They might view that as old. So if you're ratcheting back sort of the start of adulthood to middle teenager, and that somebody at 16, 17 is expected to be able to go out and fight and probably not survive, or maybe survive, that makes that line slightly less of out of place.
Did that seem like a possibility, that this is a world with child soldiers? I was kind of trying to hint at that without saying it directly yet.
Yeah. And to me, it's, you are revealing details that way helps us start building an understanding of the world, that people start fighting young, which is not, again, it's not outside the realm of possibility. Unfortunately, it happens even in our day and age, in our world. So and you have established a world that is dangerous. That's the important thing. If you don't establish a world that's dangerous, this kind of stuff doesn't make sense. But because this world is dangerous, we've seen the gutter and how like a bunch of people just got blown up a few chapters ago. We're talking about a forest where, Nian is wondering, am I going to be able to find a safe place to sleep near this forest? Gil, I talk about how he survived on the front lines. And then, at the end, when Gil is talking about the forest and how this, that Nian is assuming that they're safe on the borders, and Gil's response is, no, we're not. Like, you have established a dangerous world, and that works. It works to lower the ages of everything. I like the description of the fiance. Like, it's good. It gives that driving motion. Gil struck me as a weird character. That fit. It fit what you were trying to do. Again, his tone of voice, his language, his manner, his vocal mannerisms are great. But again, just adding in those little soldiery things that he would do as second nature, having survived for as long as he has.
I like him. It's gonna hurt when Nian has to kill him.
Yes.
Just guessing.
So I like this little interaction right here, where Gil drops his ruck bag and looks up at Nian, a certain wariness. So you fear man more than beast. And from that down, that to the end, it was like, okay, we've kind of got Nian's perspective, and he feels very confident. And we've seen when he was stills, he's very competent at what he does. He knows what he's doing. And then all of the sudden, he is out of his element and has that pointed out to him very starkly, without somebody being, dismembered. So overall, this is good. Like I said, little bits of just character actions to give that contrast between Gil's outer persona and his ability to survive despite dangerous situations. That's all I got.
Cool. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my biggest kudos is how you've described the forest. We talked about it last time, and not that you took what we said last time about bringing in more setting deals, because I think you'd already written this, or had almost already written this, some of it. But the dread that we're feeling now for the forest is great. That whole paragraph that JC mentioned, where it ends with "it waited," that's great. My only comment for that one was heck yeah. And then just the chef's kiss for bringing that in. And JC, you almost, you kind of hit on this, but you said it wrong, so I just want to say it right. Where is it? Shoot. We are not truly in the Arius yet, after all, he protested. That's Nian. And then Gil or Jill? What are we saying?
Gil.
Gil's gaze held him fast. Are we not? I was like, ooh, yes, love it.
Cool.
I really like that. So that big kudos for that. Going back up to the beginning to go in order. JC, you also mentioned the prefrontal cortex. For me, I read that. I was like, oh, that doesn't fit. So I wrote a comment, and then I did not read the next sentence. So JC, when you're talking about how he gets away with it, I think, reading the sentence he does, I did think you need to switch him. I need that it's a term from atrium first before I read prefrontal cortex. And obviously, if I wasn't going through this making comments, I probably would have actually read that sentence and it would have made sense. But I think it would work just as well or better if you say something like, I don't know, my brain's not going to work well enough to come up with a good sentence, but just shifting it so that it's clear before you said it. And you don't have to do that, but that would have kept me in. I thought that we would have heard more from Atrium when he first meets him, because in my mind he was coming to kill this guy, and I still kind of think that. And whether or not I'm guessing that right, Adam, it doesn't matter. But I thought we would hear from Atrium first. He'd be like, "Kill him," or obviously he's not going to say kill him yet because he doesn't know if he's supposed to kill him yet. But I expected to hear from Atrium a little bit sooner. And just going off of Atrium, he feels different. Like his personality feels different than the brief. And you're smiling at me, which makes me think that there's spoilers that maybe I don't want to hit on. And now I'm suspecting things, but it stuck out to me that he seems to have a different personality, which is kind of a thing in your book. So maybe I'll leave it at that. But kind of kicked me out for a second, and not in a bad way. Maybe if you want to make that a little bit less conspicuous, obvious, if that's something you're trying to do. I thought when he first started talking to Gil, and he has this thought, such straight white teeth. Now this is a man I can respect. Wait, what? I thought he was being manipulated. Thought Gil was using the mind magic on him. I don't know if he is. I don't know if he's not. I don't know if that's more things that I shouldn't talk about.
No, he's definitely not.
But that's what it felt like.
Okay.
And I kind of expected it. So that's just something maybe you want to adjust if you don't want that to be the feeling. And then I really like Gil. It is definitely going to be heartbreaking, especially because I'm assuming this next sequence is going to be them bonding as they travel through the forest, which I'm really looking forward to. I want to see what happens to them. What else was I going to say? I had to point to that. It's too late here, guys.
It's 8:45. It's not late. Dear viewer.
Says the guy who gets up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, it's all relative.
Oh, I remembered. I had a point. It was a good point. When Atrium tells him that he's super dangerous, I felt like it was weird that Nian still thinks about him and kind of treats him like he's an idiot. I felt like there'd be a little bit more wariness there. And yes, he maybe is, and like what JC is saying, maybe he's acting maybe the part of an idiot, and that does speak a lot of the words. But I would think that, especially as an assassin, especially as a professional liar, that he kind of is, he'd be more wary.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah, big kudos. I'm super excited for this forest sequence. I assume that's where this is going.
I did actually find he is 22. You specifically say he's 22.
Oh, does Atrium say that, or is that like...
Yes, Atrium
okay,
says
gotcha.
That.
When he gets into the lowdown.
Yeah, right after he grabs his hand, I found the line where he talks about that what Gil's title is and how dangerous he is. That's right in the middle of that conflict.
I appreciate that. That's actually one of my big flaws, JC, is keeping track of, like, I need to do a character Bible and keep it consistent so that the spellings of the different tribes and things are consistent, the ages of characters, things like that,
Yeah, I think we should all do that because I know JC, you ran into that with Jessica, not remembering how
Yes.
old she was. And I'm going to run into that. I have run into that where I've probably gone through like 5 different last names for Warren just because I couldn't remember his last name.
Just he gets a new one.
He just gets a new one every time I forget.
Yeah, and it gets worse. The book I'm working on right now, I was looking at, like, I'm trying to add more character descriptions in as I'm working, and I looked back and I'm like, I forgot to mention what 90% of these characters look like in, like, I have a character file and I keep forgetting to put in little details like hair color, eye color, skin color, because it's a fantasy book, so they're elves, orcs, dwarves, humans, and it's yeah, I got to get better at it. Especially,
it's a lot to keep straight.
I'm teaching a class. That's one of the classes I'm teaching at the Eagle Mountain Conference.
The irony.
Yes.
Do what I say, don't do what I do.
Yes. Learn from my bad example.
Yeah, I don't think I have a physical description of AJ anywhere in my book.
Does he not have, he has glasses, right? Is that a thing, or do I just imagine that?
That's like me in stills with him, picturing him with a bowler every time
I thought it was a sombrero.
No, you don't actually have a physical description of AJ. He kind of feels like he's certain things, but you don't explicitly say any of them.
That's funny.
I need to go back and do that because, like I told you guys this week, I went down the rabbit hole of the Romani languages, because that's where his family, it's kind of not straight their ethnicity, but that's kind of where they have their roots. And I wanted to flavor their magic that way, but I should also probably flavor their appearance a little bit that way too.
Yes.
And Nan gets away with it because she just has gray hair and because she's old.
Yeah.
AJ, I need to do a little bit more.
So there's just going to be descriptions of him later in the book, like, and he brushed his long red hair. I'm like, what?
Exactly. I'll go back and know. I think when Warren, I'll have to do it in Warren's perspective, probably. But
that would gonna feel the most natural. Especially, I mean, you get that new guy bonus explanation, which is nice.
Great. Did you have any questions for us or anything else you wanted to talk about with yours?
Yeah. So I was wondering about the pacing. Does it feel too slow?
Feels good.
Pacing feels good. Yeah.
In my mind, if somebody's not dying each chapter, it's a little slow. So okay.
Someone almost died. I mean, it felt like there was the threat there. So you're still. I think you're still on the. You've got your streak kind of still going. If we wanted to say that.
But I was like, okay, that's also a little bit like can't err too much in one direction or another.
I think
cool. Did it feel did it feel weird to linger that long on the locket and the description of the gal inside the picture?
I did think it was a lot of detail to get from like a little locket because I can't imagine that they have super advanced painting techniques or photographs. So to get that amount of detail from that tiny of a picture did seem a little bit much for me. But and maybe not to tell you how to fix it, but
please tell me how to fix it.
You are an editor. It's
what do I pay you for
it? I had a thought and I lost it. I'm so sorry, Chris.
It's 8:45, guys. What do you expect?
You go into a lot of details and you have a lot of really good concrete details. And this is usually the opposite of what I would say, but you could go more abstract with it. You could talk about the vibe more than what she actually looks like. That could be a way to make it, for me at least. JC, you've got thoughts.
I would say it all depends on what you are. Are we going to meet this character?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why
she seems really important. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, if she is, if we're going to meet her, I think giving more of an abstract, like an impression of beauty that he's captivated, but he doesn't 100% know why, because again, locket pictures aren't super detailed, like Tyler said. And that way, when we meet her, the impact is even greater. that you can do the trope that is a trope for a reason, that the picture didn't do her justice. That man gets really captivated by her. Like, he was interested because the picture, a small tiny picture, was like, wow, she's probably really pretty. And then he meets her in real life and is like, no, she's gorgeous, and draws the eye of everybody. So I think stepping back a little bit on the detail will make the actual reveal, as it were, more impactful.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. I was kind of struggling because I'm kind of introducing a character, but using her as like a fixation for her fiance and contributing to the weird image that you're getting of Gil, hopefully. Like,
yes.
Why is this dude showing off his locket? Like, why is it so important that he's going to get shot over it? Okay. Actually, along those lines, I'm always kind of trying to balance the feel of technology in this world and like how far along they are in terms of like real world equivalents. To the fact that it was explicitly mentioned a photograph, did that kick anybody out or raise any weird questions? Photograph?
No, because I've studied when I had to do a report on the history of photography once. So
good for you.
To me, it doesn't feel out of place. Maybe look up what they called pictures when they were first coming out. Like, they weren't always called photographs. So switching up your term might help people a little bit to sort of place the technological level. Would be my suggestion on that. Because you're using the term rifle. And rifles were called rifles because there was rifling in the barrel. And so if you're that far along, and if you want other technology to be sort of at that pace, then and if they're super new, and I did kind of get that impression that the rifles aren't widespread. So that sort of gives you an idea of what their terminology they're going to be using for photography. Unless you have something that might change my opinion.
It's funny, JC. It's funny that you should mention that, because my next question, I was going to confess to you guys, as I was going through, like I said, I was kind of rethreading a few, some sections of what I had already made, and then weaving them together with this new opening and kind of tweaking details and changing things, interweaving throughout. I was just not feeling the rifle technology. I was going back and I was like, this feels like it should be like flintlock or something. Like, this shit feels like it should be, in order for magic and firearms to stand on roughly equal footing at this point technologically, it feels like it should be flintlock. So I just was like, executive decision. I don't know who else is going to make this decision. I went through and I was like, it is a flintlock now. And that's going to make everything a little bit more, hopefully, spicy, because you get one shot, yeah,
that definitely changes.
Not a matchlock, so you don't have to spend 2 hours reloading it, but
right.
And it would explain why not everyone has a gun, even if it's, because when rifles did come out, muskets and stuff had been a thing for a long time. So most everyone did have something. So if we are going back to flintlocks, that would make more sense.
And this is a world where bow and arrows are still, you can reload that a lot faster than you can a flintlock. So,
and that's how it was. Like, it was still not crazy effective to have. Yeah. So to have a gun until.
Yeah, put that into perspective. There is a actual fencing manual from our time period that gives you instructions on how to approach a gunner with a sword. If you have a sword and they have
to bring a sword to a gunfight,
they talk about how you, instead of running straight, you go in a zigzag and offset the gun with your sword, because it's super hard to track with those especially those old ones. That it's the history of weaponry is really wild, and people don't realize just how much crossover there was sometimes between what we consider primitive or medieval weaponry and what we consider modern, and where all of that crossover comes in. So
yeah, that's cool.
On that front, have you considered, because artillery was first, like cannon, was where the big things. Have you considered that just in the broader context of the world?
Not super deeply. There is a larger world, and hopefully what I'm getting at here is that this is a pocket of the world, like where the main bulk of the story is taking place. I don't remember if it's this chapter. I think it's the next that I mentioned that guns are imports. Like they're not manufactured usually in this part of the world. There's an illicit market for them. They're being slowly introduced. And again, not technologically advantageous as of yet, you know. And so artillery in a forest wouldn't necessarily be, especially the more thick parts of the forest, would necessarily be preferable as a weapon.
Just one of the things that comes to mind, like I don't know if you've ever read L.E. Modest's Magic of Recluse series.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So, Tyler, you've not read it?
I don't think so.
Oh.
First one's really good.
Yeah. Magic of Recluse is really good.
Of recluse, like recluse, like hermit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's it's a good series.
It's a really grounded feeling world. The technology and that's a good point. How he incorporates that with magic is really cool. Like gunpowder is a liability in some cases because chaos wizards can set fire to it at a certain distance away. And so you have to be really careful with how you use gunpowder. Otherwise you're just a big dummy.
You're setting yourself up for massive failure. And I will say it's a non-linear story. Like book 1 sort of takes place in the middle of the what'd you say about the middle of the story?
If I remember right.
Yeah, and then it goes like you can get some that jump back hundreds of years, some that go forward a little bit, and the books bounce around in the history. But yeah, that's one of those that if you're wondering how magic and technology can interact, it's a great way to look at how developing technology and magic can work together.
That's a good point.
Brian McClellan's Gunpowder Mage series is also really good.
I've heard of that one.
I've heard of it, but not looked into it.
Yeah. He was one of Brandon Sanderson's students. So
yep.
Cool. Well, I think along technological lines, that was the last question that I had in particular. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate the feedback, and I'm really looking forward to you guys reading these next couple of chapters.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what the next chapters are in Technomancer. Like,
JC, there better be some action.
I was about to say, I'm worried that it's still kind of slow.
Oh man,
that's been the hard part with
you gotta kill
writing.
People, Jesse.
With writing it is like I give a case that is a lot slower paced, and part of it is to contrast with the Hero Unit series. Main, where it's there's a lot more higher stakes. So. There we go. Yeah. There's higher stakes. They're put on cases that are a lot more dangerous. And Grey Vanish again. And so sometimes the Collinsworth case files they're a little bit slower. So I'd have to take a look at the maybe some scene orders and stuff.
Yeah, I would say either I want some like action, like a fight scene or something, or I know there's kind of this hinted at romantic arc coming our way. So I would progress there or action. I would say
that might be what. Gosh, I'm trying to remember. Anyway, we'll find out when I post.
Next time on Heroes.
Yeah.
Technomancer.
I had a thought. Talking about megalomaniacs referring to themselves in the third person. The third person writers group.
That's not a bad one. I like that one.
The third person. What if we add a fourth person? We're gonna have to kick me out or
Good
something
point.
to add another person.
We'll have to just keep throwing names around because nothing really feels quite right yet.
I like the third person writers group.
I think maybe it needs some tweaking, but
maybe there's something.
There's something.
There's something there. I think there's something there.
dear listener, by the time you hear this, you'll think we're idiots because we'll already have had to have a name for our podcast. But right now, as we're recording on the 23rd of January, we do not.
We have no idea. We don't know what we're going to do.
Too bad we can't open up a poll for all 10,000 of our listeners.
Wouldn't that be so nice? Actually, wouldn't it be so nice if Brandon Sanderson and Dan Wells hadn't already taken the Intentionally Blank podcast? Yes. That's so good.
Yes, it is.
Well, last time we kind of ended off discussing a question. I didn't come prepared with a question, but I think that could be a fun closing segment for us. But if we don't, then maybe we should.
Yeah. The nice thing is we've talked about some of the writer stuff, like having to bring in stakes that, like, I deal with superheroes, and a lot, like you've pointed out, a lot of my characters are invulnerable. Physical stakes are less of a thing. They're still there, but it takes extreme measures to get to where physical stakes become. And I will say, you will see a scene later in the book where physical stakes are real. And so how to give your readers stakes when maybe the physical isn't the peril. You're not hanging your character from a cliff every chapter, or like Gray said, you're not killing someone every chapter. So giving your characters stakes and keeping your readers engaged is one of those things that we need to learn as writers. So Tyler, you've talked a little bit about it. So to give stakes outside of physical harm, what are some of the things you see in other writers, like to use yourself, or dislike?
Yeah, I think and I to go off of that a little bit before I come up with an answer from somewhere, I would almost say that physical stakes, getting hurt, to a certain extent, dying, is almost like a cheap way to have stakes. I think the real stakes you should be having are emotional stakes. There should be something like that going on, and I we can maybe turn to romance, which is something we're all very good at writing. But there's the relationship at stake, and I try to have a little bit of a different friend relationships and different romantic relationships in my story, and there's always the question of, if I say this or if I do this, will I ruin everything? And I think that we're always trying to make our art resemble reality, and I think that's very real. I've been happily married for 6+ years.
Congrats.
And there are still things, thank you. And there are still things I could do that would ruin my relationship. And so there's still stakes in my relationship. There's still things I have to do to keep things up and to keep them from getting down. And so, and that's for a friend relationship as well. My best buds, AJ and Luke, who have been friends since the 3rd grade, kind of mirroring one of my relationships with one of my best friends. There are things that they could do that could ruin their relationship. I don't think it ever comes up. At least it's not going to come up in this book, maybe the next book. But there's still risk, and something has to be risked for there to be stakes. If it is a physical, like we talked about with yours, JC, because the main characters are essentially invincible. If they lose another character, if they're protecting a kid and the kid is at risk or something like that will give it, that's still emotional stakes, even though there's physical stakes at the same time. Those are my thoughts. That came from somewhere in my head.
Somewhere deep inside. For me, JC, I would say I subscribe to that school of writing which says the character always has to be in danger of some form of death and overcoming that, whether that is emotional or physical. And that can depend on the genre. And by the way, I'm ripping this off from James Scott Bell, who's a best-selling thriller writer in particular, tends to write. So the classic example is Casablanca. So have you guys both seen that?
Nope.
All right. So,
but I know the premise. Yeah.
All right. Wartime, gosh, what is this? Morocco, French Nazi controlled Morocco. And there's a bartender named Rick who owns this place downtown. And it's this very seedy establishment. And Rick has this line that he sticks his neck out for nobody because he's not willing to risk his own personal security for anybody, even though maybe he believes in the war effort, maybe he doesn't. He's not really willing to say. Once upon a time, he was very much against the Nazis. Now he doesn't seem to care until the former love of his life enters his life. And all of a sudden, he's first met with the emotional stakes of like, okay, can I win this woman back? Do I even want to? Is this emotional gray that I've allowed my heart to become this going to be broken again if I give my heart to this woman who's now married, by the way? So there's that. And then the added physical stakes once he decides to take up the woman's cause, the Allied cause. Okay, he could not only lose his bar, his livelihood, he could lose his life, right? And those two things are kind of melded together and are really beautifully done. I don't know. So throughout every portion, every stage of that movie, there's always this question of, is he going to stay comfortable, or is he going to get out there? Is he going to potentially sacrifice something, or is he going to put something on the line for what he believes? Does he even believe anything anymore? Right? Is he already dying inside? Is this what he needs to live truly?
Nice. Yeah.
Something else I would add when it comes to stakes, and we're all kind of dealing with different levels of how many people could die compared in the confines of our stories. The world ending is not a real stake.
Despite every superhero movie.
Despite every superhero movie. It is too big. Your reader, like, nobody can really understand that. You can't connect to that. That being said, you can have the risk of the world ending, but you have to focus on individuals. It has to be about individual stories. One of my students is writing, like intergalactic warfare and stuff like that, and he had the question about how you deal with massive tragedy. And somebody said this. Somebody much smarter than me, so don't attribute it to me. I just don't remember who it was. A child's shoe at the ground zero or whatever it is. That is so much more powerful than this amount of people died. I taught the Holocaust. There's a big number when it comes to the Holocaust.
The multiverse has collapsed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't understand the Holocaust. I'm getting a little bit emotional. I apologize. Mm-hmm. By thinking about the 6 million number, that huge number, that's too big. I live in a small town. You guys live in slightly bigger towns, but still small towns.
Tiny town.
Yeah. 6 million is too big of a number. It's the stories. That's why whenever you go to a museum about the Holocaust, it's pictures, it's stories, it's individuals. Yeah. So whatever level your stakes are in your book, you totally end the world. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Don't end the world. Whatever. But if you do it, it's not going to be powerful unless you focus on an individual's story.
Yeah.
I agree with that. At the end of the first Avengers movie, when you have the Avengers fighting a bunch of CGI aliens in New York, like, all that sounds pretty interesting, right? But they're getting down on the ground and they're saving, specific people who will then, at the end of the movie, in the denouement, are being interviewed by the press and saying, "Oh, Captain America saved me and my daughter." Like, it does wonders, to have a face that you can pair with it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good question.
I think that's one of those things that I went through as a beginning writer. I was all about the big world-ending events, and the stakes were always just through the roof. And even though I have characters that are even more powerful than what I originally wrote, I'm having to ground them because nobody can relate to Ace on a physical level. You can't relate to Superman on a physical level. You don't know what it's like to be able to fly, around. You have to be able to fly, period. Let alone be able to stop bullets and survive in outer space and take, explosions to the face and be fine. I have to take and give her, and in the same way, Jessica, I have to ground her in reality. And a lot of times it's the relationships around her that ground her, that bring her down. bring her out of the world of being a superhero and bringing her into the world of being a mom, a girlfriend, a friend, somebody with conflicts. And I'm still working on that. So working with you guys has really helped me to understand that, and it's not like I didn't understand it before, but to know that bringing those emotional stakes in are going to help my readers actually care about my characters more than just, oh, it's fun to read, about Superman beating someone up.
That is fun.
But it's fun, but it doesn't stay with you. It's not the kind of stories that stay with you are the ones that resonate with you emotionally. So that's one of the things that I'm striving for, and your guys' feedback has been helping with that. So with that,
writers groups are cool.
Yeah. The one thing I can say to all of our listeners, however many there are, whenever you hear this, is if you want to succeed as a writer, find a writers group.
No man is an island.
Maybe we should make a tagline out of that.
Works for
Find
me.
a writers group.
Find a writers group. Well, dear listener, we hope you've enjoyed the last hour and 40 minutes with us. Hopefully we weren't too boring. Thank you for listening with us this long. If there's nothing else, we'll catch you later.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.